Did you know that trumpets were actually not originally part of the mariachi lineup? In fact, the instruments that make up a mariachi ensemble are a lot different today than they were originally. It's hard to know what the original lineup was exactly because we just don't have a lot of historical sources that go back that far, but the earliest sources that we have from the mid-1800s have at that time the instrumentation being only 4 members. So it was 2 violins, a guitarrón, and a vihuela. That was in northern Jalisco, and then in southern Jalisco and Michoacan, it was still 4 musicians, but the lineup was actually 2 violins, a harp, and an instrument called a guitarra de golpe. After the Mexican Revolution, the guitarra de golpe was replaced by the classical guitar, the classical Spanish guitar, but the vihuela and the guitarrón stayed. Okay, now getting back to the trumpets. So in the early 1900s, mariachi started using an instrument called a cornet, which is kind of a smaller brass instrument. And it wasn't until the 1930s and 40s that the cornet was replaced by trumpets. There's a lot of theories as to why this replacement happened, but one that makes a lot of sense to me is that this was also the time when the radio started becoming really popularized in Mexico, and it brought with it a lot of American music, which at that time was really brass heavy. For example, you had big bands, you had jazz, and even the early Hollywood music, the first Hollywood scores had a ton of brass. They had French horns and trombones, trumpets, everything. And I really like this theory because I feel like you can hear a lot of that American brass sound in a lot of the early Jorge Negrete recordings, where it kind of sounds like a mariachi accompanied by a big band.
¡Qué lindo es Jalisco! ¡Palabra de honor! ¡Qué lindo es Jalisco!
I think about trumpets being the most recent addition to the mariachi ensemble a lot, because I think that they have one of the hardest jobs in a mariachi. The change from the guitarra de golpe to the classical guitar wasn't that big because they're both pretty similar in volume, right? But going from one little cornet to 2 or even 3 trumpets, that's like a huge jump in volume that you have to account for. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but in restaurants or at parties, sometimes the trumpet players are standing behind the other musicians, or sometimes they're even like super far away somewhere else. And so they have to do techniques like that. But I mean, even so, the trumpet players in mariachis are just so skilled because they have to play all these really fast lines. There's a lot of fast music, right, in mariachi, a lot of really high stuff too, and they just have to have such immense control over their instrument to be able to play all those lines really delicately so that they don't just drown everyone else out. But yeah, every time I sing with a mariachi or I listen to one, I'm always reminded of that really difficult and impressive job that they can do. It's easy to forget that now in the age of recordings, right, where we listen to most of our music through headphones and people can mix and turn down levels or levels up. But listening to a group live, you're really able to just take in and appreciate the awesome job that they do.